disability, art, community, pain, joy, glimmers. 4 BIPOC disabled queer Vancouver-based artists explore the healing power of witnessing through collaboration. These artists humbly and vulnerably bring you into their lives, into their homes to discuss their practices and experiences. They invite you into the creation and production of their live poetry music show, Glimmers. Watch as the show within the show comes to life.
I think my art practice is just like something that I was born to do in a certain way. I often say that poetry is more of a disposition to life than it is a disposition to words, and I feel like I've always sort of had sensitivity of a poet. In my earliest years, the physical difference of my body, so like the presence of disability and the visibility of it, made it so that a lot of my peers and educators, took it upon themselves to project a lot onto me, why can't you do this, or you'll only be able to do this much of the thing you enjoy, or just a lot of sort of passive prescriptions on what my subjectivity would be able to do. And so I think from a very early age, poetry was a way of asserting a subjectivity that was by me and for me, or I felt in many aspects of my life as though, maybe surveilled is a little bit of a strong word, but I felt very attended to in a way that was sometimes a little bit claustrophobic in a way, and so I was like, okay, well, it seems as though my physicality makes it so that the world is looking at me, and so poetry was a way to assert that I was looking back at the world. And so I guess I've been trying ever since to sort of unravel or understand the impact of disability on my subjectivity, and it's an ongoing thing. As someone who was pretty much born with a disability, it's hard to know exactly how it is that cerebral palsy has worked its way into my self-understanding, but part of the joy of making films and writing poems is giving myself the space to reflect on the impact of disability in my life, kind of past and present. And I would say I'm older than I've ever been, as we all are, I guess. But I guess part of what that means is that my relationship to my body is shifting as I age. So I feel, I feel the impacts of my disability more pressingly, physically, these days. In the way that mortality is one of the sort of common subjects that poets deal with, my writing about my relationship to time, my relationship to my body, my relationship to notions of progress, whether spiritual or capitalistic, are sort of all informed by the ways that my body is changing. And also I suppose there's a underrated or under-discussed way that spoken word is actually it's an art form that depends on physicality, you know? And so in that way, it's like, I used to be able to stand on stage for an hour and dance around and wink at the audience, and now now I feel like an old man sitting in a chair a lot of the time. You know, still me, like still beautiful and powerful and poetic in all the same ways, but I just feel like the heft of weight and time and disability exerting themselves a little bit differently than they used to. But so I think part of it is a choice of like, do I want to care for my body differently so that I'm able to embody my poetry more fully? Or do I just like sort of sit in the disability poetics of my body as it presently is? I don't know. Yeah. I grew up in a very sort of sheltered suburban environment. Not sheltered because it was suburban, it just so happened to be both. That gave me a sense of shyness, or like, I guess, I was just maybe more anxious or more worried about my capacity to like live and be in the world capably and powerfully and like exercise my sort of full agency as a young person. And then I got to Carleton University in 2006. Yeah, that's when I started university. And then, by 2008, I was bored and I was in my dorm and I was like, oh, this is Carleton University. This is Ottawa, Ontario. It's the capital of Canada. There must be poetry somewhere. And at the time, there were student elections happening. And so I just went to the most popular looking Black person that I could find within that sort of vote for me context. I was like, hey, Black man, do you know where I can find spoken word? And then he connected me to another poet named Komi Olafemi-Hon. And Komi was sort of my gateway into spoken word. And then at that time, that's 2008. And so for some reason at that time, there was like an influx of young Black men moving into the Ottawa poetry scene. And so in that way, it's not that I fit right in, but the elders of the scene, or the folks who were like slightly older than me in the scene, were like very welcoming of my presence. So I thought, oh, we have another one. And so I think part of what spoken word did, and part of what being on stage did, was like constantly asking me to like be in my power in a visible way, which was not something that I was doing frequently in my life up until that point, you know. And so I used to host a little open mic at a very hippie cafe called Umi Cafe on Friday nights. And I think that was also a pretty formative experience in the sense that like from hosting, I was able to like hold the beauty of other people, because like part of hosting is like initiating for the audience a sense of like, oh, isn't this a beautiful ritual that we're enacting together? Or like, you know, did you notice the beauty of that particular song? And so those experiences made it so that I began to understand that love was not just a sort of abstract entity floating in the universe, but something that I could choose to embody intentionally. So like the combination of whatever artistic agency and power I was wielding, combined with my, you know, newfound capacity to wield love intentionally, made life very interesting. And I would say maybe that's when my relationship to poetry also became sort of intentional, or like when I learned that poetry is a way of living, you know? Yeah. And so then in the subsequent years, in the years that have followed, poetry has been my way of charting my spiritual progress, but also documenting and expressing my evolving relationship to love as I grow. When I say love, what I mean is the journey to embodying love, which has other things in the path, So, so that has meant also documenting my loneliness, or because I'm a person who both needs love and loves love. A lot of my writing, a lot of my way of being has been about articulating the space between the love that I'm currently able to access versus the love that I know is possible. And so within that gap is the space of all of my dreams and ambitions, and my poems generally live in that valley between this is the love that I know in my body, and this is the love that I know is possible in my body. Yeah, that's where poems live and come from. I think I've thought a lot about maybe the difference between what it means to be nice and what it means to be kind. I have the capacity to be nice, but niceness is just knowing what the rules are. And kindness is a relationship between love, humility, God, and whatever you're able to see as to the needs of the other people who are existing in that moment with you. And so, when I say spiritual generosity, what I mean is folks who have the capacity to hold kindness or adapt to what love requires in a given moment. Maybe a lot of what folks enjoy about my presence on stage is that being on stage is one broad opportunity to express my relationship to spiritual generosity, and then to the extent that my generosity is felt, people relax or feel themselves loved. And often when people feel themselves loved, they feel themselves more capable of loving. And then, what we create in that space is a space where generosity and love are more possible. And then where generosity and love exist, people are able to be more honest, more courageous, more of all the things that make poetry a sort of vital energy, So in terms of sort of my multidisciplinary art practice, that relies a lot upon collaboration, because I just write beautiful words and then try to transmit them into different forms. So that's music and film, and sometimes collaborations with dancers. But I mean to say that I'm always looking for that spiritual generosity in others, because that's what makes collaboration possible. Not to get not to be too much of a hippie about it, but collaboration is lovemaking. And one of the beautiful things about collaborating with people is that if folks care about the art and you stay connected to the collaborative energy for long enough, you get to understand what people care about and the ways that they would tend to express their love. In the course of making a film or a song or a dance, maybe the stakes are a little bit, they're not the highest possible stakes, but it's enough tension, let's say, that eventually you'll have to work through this is the way I see love, or this is the way I need to be held, or this is the way I like to be heard, or this is my capacity for listening, or This is what it looks like when I'm feeling comfortable and sensuous. This is what it looks like when I'm tired and agitated, you know? So, so all of these things are textbooks, are opportunities to learn how people want to be loved and how they go about manifesting it. And so, yeah, art making is a love-making process. And to make love without generosity is not to make love, so. One of the things that I love most about being alive is my capacity for dreaming. So, for better or worse, I'm someone who can come up with the large idea rather quickly. One of my skills is knowing who to ask for what, and knowing the limitations of my own skills. I think mostly my relationship to collaboration is about being able to spot and appropriately hold the genius of other folks, such that I say, I see your heart and I see enough of your genius that I trust you. These are my intentions. This is the sandbox that I've created. Please bring your genius to the sandbox, and maybe we can make a sandcastle. You know, like it's in that way, it's like quite simple. I really am ceaselessly curious about other people. You know, not to like self-aggrandize, but I love to love other people, or I'm excited whenever I see the beauty of other folks. And so to invite folks to express that beauty in the context of a dream that I have around creativity is like exciting and an honor. I've been lucky, or I've been fortunate. I won't say lucky. I've been fortunate that generally people are interested enough in my poetry to be like, you know, when I say like, oh, I want to make a film, here's the poem to go with it. People are like, huh, I like that. I will come along for the ride. Yeah, so I think in terms of knowing who to collaborate with, it's a combination of their level of, like, the combination of passion and skill that they embody in their own work, and like giving folks the space to express their intrinsic genius. I want to create a collaborative environment where other folks have enough freedom to feel excited about like the thing that they love to do, more than like, oh, I'm serving Brandon's vision. It's like, nah, like this melody makes me happy. And yeah, so as long as we can like create some balance between how other folks love to express and what I have in mind, things usually go well. The more interesting mode of collaboration that I'm trying to work my way into is like the community building piece, you know, because I'm one of the few people in Canada who is foolish enough to be a full-time poet, like for a living, you know. So I say that to say that it can be easy to sort of get caught up in the sort of individualistic, careerist impulse to make everything that I do in my art making practice about myself, or like, oh, like, or about my ability to like bring myself into proximity with like certain kinds of resources that will like fuel more art making and like the possibility of paying rent. But I think in this city, in this time, the question that I'm asking more often is like, what does Vancouver need? And like of those needs, what can I offer, you know? So like I'm thinking about whether it means like teaching more through spoken word, or creating film screening nights or a book club. Like I'm trying to think of like the sort of community activation as the mode of collaboration, because like I'm in a space where it feels to me like spoken word as an art form is being, I don't want to say that it's dying, but I feel like it's a more vital art form than it is currently expressing itself as. Not like it's nobody's fault, but like the pandemic has meant that like venues have closed, and like, yeah, so there are fewer spaces for younger poets than me to find their voices in the ways that I was able to like find my voice in 2008, 2009, because there was a coffee shop that had an open mic and a dance club that would allow us to do poetry slams before before the ravers showed up, you know, at 11 or 12 or whatever, you know. And so yeah, I'm trying to cultivate spaces where the things that I'm interested in can be catalysts for deeper conversations and like, yeah, different kinds of lovemaking, if I can extend that metaphor a little bit. Yeah. So yeah, that's what I'm excited about. So hopefully by the time the world is seeing this film, you know, there'll be a Black Canadian film night or a you know, a spoken word cohort that I facilitate or something of this nature, because I need it. And I think I learned in like 2010 and 2011 that if one chooses, poetry can be like quite a solitary thing. I could just like wake up every day and go to a coffee shop and be like, oh, how do I extract a poem from my experience today? But that got tiring. And so yeah, the sorts of collaboration that I'm interested in right now are the collaboration of like deep conversation and what it means to listen for the sake of learning from other people. Yeah. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I'm trying to bring into balance is a lot of my community, a lot of my social activity has hinged upon artistic collaboration. So that is to say, like, there's almost no distinction between like my work life and my other the other aspects of my life. And so like, you know, unless there's like a poetry show to go to or a film to shoot or a song to make, it's not often the case that I'm like gathering with folks. And so yeah, because you know, like several times now I've described poetry as like more of a way of being or more of a relationship to life than it is a relationship to words, you know. And like the beauty of that is none of my spiritual energy is alienated from my work. So that is to say, like, you know, there are some folks sitting in a cubicle right now and they're like, oh, like my life force wants to be over here, but I'm like in this office. Yeah, all of my life force sort of is channeled into the same place, but it has meant that yeah, it's been hard to like disentangle my work from my joy, from the other aspects of my life. So yeah, I want to be able to create more community outside of the things that I'm inclined to produce artistically. Like that's the thing that I'm working on. And I think only maybe in the last 2 years have I understood how many disabled artists are just like around, you know, like like if I wanted to like bring together, or like, use a megaphone and be like, hear ye, all disabled artists join the circle. I think I would come away with like a rather large circle right now. And it's, one of the things about my life is that I haven't consistently had, or I haven't consistently sought even a disability community. Like I've tended to be the only visibly disabled person in most of the spaces that I frequently occupy, and maybe that's changing. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Only in the last little while have I thought about the notion of disability community as something that's like possible for me, and I think I'm learning how many different ways that can look. I was someone who was like born with my disability, and like not everybody. I guess what I'm trying to say is, even for me, I've only thought about disability as looking like similar to the way that like my disability presents, and I'm learning that disability presents in like so many different ways, such that maybe I've had more opportunities for disability community than I even knew before now. But this film is a testament to the fact that like it's happening slowly. Because I grew up in an environment that was consistently unchaotic, like rather like calm, I think it means that I existed in a space where it was easy to trust the goodness of other people, because I didn't see a lot of anger or disharmony in my family. I like to say that I come from at least on my mom's side, I come from a long line of decidedly unspiteful people. I think I have quite a capacity for joy, and I think I have quite a capacity to make that joy visible in a way that gives other folks permission to experience their own joy. I think what I do on stage is mostly that, not to, like, I'm not trying to objectify myself, but like, oh yes. When they call my name and they're like, oh, the next poet on stage is gonna be Brandon Witt. Like, I'm not even really thinking about poetry. I'm thinking mostly about how much joy I can express on stage, because it's like, once that happens, it gives people permission to like be in their own joy, and then it doesn't matter really what I say. So like I often say that the reason we gather around poetry is because we're craving an honest word. It's like there's a way that to be a spoken word artist is to like practice performing a particular kind of magic trick, but like the real magic is in my capacity to be like a human being in your presence. So hello, I'm Brandon. There's something exciting about the sort of spiritual process of what I've often called like conversing with the dream. Like I'm like quite good at it, but like what if it was like conversing with the dream beyond just the individual project, but like saying, this is the sort of artist I wish to be. Like this is the way that I wish to show up in the world. This is the way that I wish to be seen in the world, and this is how that vision relates to my artistic production. Like that level of manifestation, that kind of spirit work, I'm excited to do. I have a pretty strong belief in like my spiritual fortitude, like I just feel like I'm supposed to be somebody, I feel like there's a version of myself that is even grander than the version that you're seeing right now. And so I'm working to understand why I desire to be this larger version of myself. I feel like there are offerings that I have in me to make that are both like helpful and profound. And I want to be empowered and self-aware enough to be able to make those offerings consistently, because I think I'm capable of magic, and I think that my magic is ancestrally credentialed. You know, I guess what I'm saying is that I believe in the purpose of these gifts, you know, and I want to be able to embody that purposefulness powerfully for the benefit of myself and those who are inclined to love me, you know.
Hold my hand. Here we stand. Hold my hand. Here we stand. Hold my hand. Here we stand. You and I. You and I. Hold my hand.
On the next episode, come behind the scenes with us for the final preparations for the Glimmers live show. As the date gets closer, so too does the realization that this massive undertaking is really happening. In the face of chronic pain, ongoing health treatment therapies, and family crises, we show the persistence, patience, and support required to co-create and build something beautiful. Through stress, pivoting plans, and the ever-shifting capacities of disabled folks, we distill myths about professionalism and production to create a community that offers a brighter tomorrow with more of us in it.